we should all be compensated with hazard pay after having to watch the Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever game. Man, that Sky team is straight trash, homie.
Hashtag WNBA game analysis script. Angel Reese versus Indiana Fever. Oh my goodness. What we just witnessed was nothing short of basketball carnage. The Chicago Sky didn't just lose tonight. They got absolutely demolished, embarrassed, and sent home in body bags by an Indiana Fever team that treated them like a high school scrimmage. And somewhere, Angel Reese is watching this disaster unfold from the sidelines, probably questioning every life choice that led her team to this moment of pure basketball humiliation. But here's the kicker that nobody saw coming. While everyone's been talking about Caitlin Clark this and Caitlin Clark that, it was Lexie Hull who just dropped the performance of a lifetime, turning the Chicago Sky into her personal shooting gallery. 4 threes, 17 points, and a statement so loud it echoed through every arena in the league. This wasn't just a game. Folks, this was a public execution. And the Indiana Fever just showed the entire WNBA what happens when you sleep on the wrong team. We need to talk about what just went down because this game exposed something much bigger than just one bad night for Chicago. This was a complete system failure, a total organizational breakdown, and quite possibly the most embarrassing performance we've seen from a professional basketball team all season. The Indiana Fever didn't just beat the Sky, they schooled them, dominated them, and left them looking like they belonged in a completely different league. Let's start with the elephant in the room. The Chicago Sky are straight trash right now, and I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying it because it's the cold, hard truth that nobody else wants to admit. This isn't a team going through growing pains or dealing with chemistry issues. This is a franchise in complete freefall, and tonight's performance was the exclamation point on what has been a season of absolute chaos and dysfunction. Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull turned Wintrust Arena into their personal three-point contest, raining shots like they were playing NBA 2K on rookie mode. Every time Chicago thought they might have a chance, every time they showed even the slightest sign of life, here came another dagger from beyond the arc that crushed their souls and sent their fans heading for the exits. This wasn't basketball, this was target practice, and Chicago was wearing bullseyes on their jerseys. But here's what makes this story even more devastating for the Sky organization. Out of Indiana's wins this season, have come against Chicago.
Open three. What a sight for Lexie.
Let that sink in for a moment. A significant chunk of the Fever's success this year has come from repeatedly beating up on this one sorry excuse for a professional basketball team. Without the Sky serving as their personal punching bag, Indiana's record would look completely different. That's not just bad, that's historically embarrassing. The problems for Chicago start at the very top and trickle down to every single aspect of their operation. Angel Reese is still sidelined with a back injury.
Just to add to that, I think Kelsey's not giving herself enough credit. Her and Sophie putting themselves before the team, making sure that they're sacrificing, playing out of position, doing things that they don't normally do, maybe uncomfortable, but I think they both really did a great job of sacrificing in those moments and doing what the team needed to do.
Okay. Sexy Lexie.
And honestly, nobody seems to have any clue when she's coming back or what's really going on with her situation. When your star player is MIA and your team is falling apart on national television, that's when you know your organization has some serious soul-searching to do. Without Reese anchoring the paint and providing that offensive spark, this Chicago team has absolutely no identity whatsoever. Camila Cardoso found herself riding the bench. Ariel Atkins was basically invisible for most of the night, and the entire roster looked like they'd rather be anywhere else in the world than on that basketball court. There was no heart, no fight, no pride, just a group of players going...
Cunningham gets a second chance, and she makes it count.
...through the motions while getting embarrassed on their home floor. Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever came into this game with a level of focus and intensity that made it clear they weren't here to play games. The first half was closer than it should have been, which honestly should have been concerning for Fever fans. But once that third quarter rolled around, it was game over. Indiana flipped a switch, Chicago completely collapsed, and what followed was one of the most one-sided beatdowns you'll see at the professional level. Now, let's talk about the real story of the night. Lexie Hull's absolutely explosive performance that had everyone in the building shook. People had been whispering that maybe Hull had lost her shooting touch, that maybe she was going to fade into the background and become just another role player. Well, she heard all that noise, and her response was absolutely perfect. For 6 from beyond the arc, 17 points, 3 steals, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds. That's not just showing up. That's making a statement that echoes throughout the entire league. What made Hull's performance even more special was watching Caitlin Clark on the bench, jumping up and celebrating every single shot like she was watching her little sister hit her first three-pointer. That's the kind of team chemistry and genuine excitement that championship teams are built on. While other rosters are dealing with drama and ego clashes, Indiana has players genuinely excited about each other's success. Natasha Howard was doing the dirty work that doesn't always show up in the highlight reels, pulling down 10 rebounds and chipping in 7 points while making life miserable for Chicago's front court. Aaliyah Boston was her usual steady self, shooting 7 of 11 from the field for 15 points while adding 4 boards and 3 assists. Boston is one of those players who's so consistently excellent that people almost take her for granted. But her presence changes everything for this Fever team on both ends of the floor. The beauty of watching this Indiana team operate is seeing how every player understands their role and executes it to perfection. Nobody's trying to be the hero. Nobody's forcing shots or making selfish plays. When the system works this smoothly, when everyone buys into their role, this is what happens. You get complete and total domination against teams that are supposed to be your peers. Kelsey Mitchell put on an absolute clinic with 26 points on 9 of 18 shooting while dishing out 8 assists. That's a complete performance that showcases exactly why this Fever team is so dangerous. Mitchell wasn't just scoring. She was controlling the tempo, finding open teammates, and making the kind of smart decisions that veteran point guards dream about. Her confidence is through the roof right now. And when Mitchell is playing at this level, Indiana becomes a legitimate problem for everyone else in this league. Sophie Cunningham brought that trademark energy and intensity that makes her such a valuable piece of this puzzle. 5 of 10 from the floor, 3 of 6 from deep, 16 points, plus all the hustle plays and defensive intensity that don't show up in the box score. When Cunningham's shot is falling and she's flying around the court making winning plays, you can literally feel the energy shift in the building. She's the type of player who elevates everyone around her just by the way she approaches the game. Here's what separates good teams from great teams. Good teams beat the opponents they're supposed to beat, but great teams destroy them. Indiana didn't just win tonight. They sent a message to the entire league that they're not here to play around. Some people might try to downplay this performance by saying it was just against a weak Chicago team, but that's exactly the point. Championship-level organizations handle their business against inferior competition, and that's exactly what we witnessed tonight. When you break down Indiana's systematic approach to this game, it becomes clear why they dominated from start to finish. Every player knew their role, every screen was set with purpose, and every shot attempt came within the flow of the offense. Chicago, on the other hand, looked like 5 strangers who had never played basketball together before in their lives. The spacing was terrible, the effort was inconsistent, and their identity changed every single quarter. Indiana ran the same basic offensive set 4 times in a row and got 4 completely different clean looks. First, Mitchell pulled up for a jumper. Then she hit Hull in the corner for 3. Next, Boston got a pocket pass for an easy bucket. And finally, Cunningham lifted for a wing 3-pointer. Same play, different outcomes, and Chicago had absolutely no answer for any of it. That's what happens when you're playing chess against someone who's still trying to figure out checkers. The tactical superiority was evident in every single possession. When Chicago tried to blitz the pick and roll, Indiana hit the short roll and played 4-on-3. When the sky switched, Indiana slipped screens and punished the hesitation. When Chicago sagged off shooters, they made them pay from beyond the arc. It wasn't complicated basketball. It was disciplined, intelligent basketball executed by players who trust each other completely. What made this performance even more impressive was watching Indiana's attention to detail in the little things that casual fans might miss. Their screening angles were perfect, their spacing created maximum advantage, and their ball movement was poetry in motion. Boston would set what looked like a down screen, then pivot into a handoff, forcing defenders to make multiple decisions in split seconds. That's not just talent. That's coaching and preparation at the highest level. With Caitlin Clark sidelined, Kelsey Mitchell had to step up and control the pace of the game, and she handled that responsibility like a seasoned veteran. She didn't force early shots or try to do too much. Instead, she got the ball moving, found the right matchups, and let the offense breathe naturally. When Chicago failed to stop ball penetration, Mitchell burned them. When they packed the paint, she found shooters for open looks. That's championship-level decision-making from a player who's clearly ready for the big stage. The defensive effort was just as impressive as the offensive execution. Indiana ice-side pick and rolls, keeping the ball out of the middle, where help defense becomes more difficult. They showed help from the nail position, then recovered beautifully on passes. That's how you force teams into taking contested mid-range shots while taking away the corner three-pointers that modern offenses depend on. Chicago took the bait every single time, settling for exactly the shots Indiana wanted them to take. On the glass, Howard and Boston were absolutely relentless, crashing the boards and preventing Chicago from getting any second-chance opportunities. When long shots bounced out, Hull and Cunningham were already dropping down to help secure rebounds. That team rebounding effort completely eliminated Chicago's best chance at easy points while fueling Indiana's transition offense that punished the Sky's poor floor balance. The coaching details that popped up throughout the game showed just how prepared Indiana was for this moment. Their end-of-quarter execution was crisp and professional. On baseline out-of-bounds plays, they ran simple but effective actions that created clean looks for their best shooters. When Sophie got a catch but didn't have a great shot, she made the extra pass to Mitchell for a reset jumper. Those are the kinds of unselfish plays that championship teams make automatically. For Chicago, there were a few individual bright spots scattered throughout the carnage. A couple of players battled hard and tried to keep their team competitive, but every time they made a small run, Indiana had an immediate answer. That's the difference between a team that's built its foundation properly and one that's still trying to figure out its identity. Chicago would make one good play, then follow it up with two empty possessions, and the game would slip away in slow motion. Angel Reese's absence continues to cast a shadow over everything Chicago is trying to accomplish. She changes the entire dynamic on the glass and brings a presence that makes her teammates play bigger and more confidently. But injuries are part of the game, and professional teams have to find ways to function even when their best players are unavailable. Right now, Chicago is asking role players to create offense out of thin air far too often, and that's simply not sustainable at this level. The film session tomorrow is going to be absolutely brutal for the Sky coaching staff. They need to find ways to protect the three-point line better, force opponents into longer shots, and create some automatic offensive actions that work even when talent is limited. Right now, they're playing hero ball way too often and hoping individual brilliance can overcome systematic failures. Indiana deserves massive credit for maintaining their poise and professionalism throughout this beatdown. There wasn't a lot of trash talk or showboating, just players doing their jobs at the highest possible level. When teammates point to each other after backdoor cuts or give subtle nods after switches, that's grown-up basketball that speaks to trust and communication at the highest level. Lexie Hull's performance tonight looked like a genuine corner-turning moment for her career. She didn't get caught up in the early success and start hunting heat-check threes. Instead, she stayed disciplined, kept finding good spacing, and remained aggressive defensively. Those 3 steals weren't gambling plays. They were the result of studying Chicago's lazy passing patterns and positioning herself perfectly to capitalize on mistakes. Sophie Cunningham's impact went far beyond her shooting numbers. She sprinted lanes in transition to stretch the defense, filled gaps perfectly, and never drifted into her teammates' space. Those are fundamental basketball concepts that make fast breaks look smooth instead of chaotic. Her tone-setting energy was infectious and elevated everyone around her. Boston's versatility was on full display throughout the night. When Indiana needed a clean possession, they parked her on the block and let the offense flow around her. When they needed ball movement, she became a handoff hub at the elbow. Her footwork is so smooth and efficient. One dribble to create space, baby hook over the defender, then immediately transition back to defense. No wasted motion, no unnecessary drama. The bench energy and culture indicators were impossible to miss throughout this performance. Players celebrating makes, helping teammates up after falls, and handling towels and water without coaches asking. Those are the small details that separate good teams from great ones. When players genuinely like each other and want to see each other succeed, they play half a step faster because they trust the next pass will always be there. This single game obviously doesn't crown anyone as championship favorites, but it reinforces the habits and systems that teams will need when the playoffs arrive and every possession matters. Spacing, pace control, and rebounding are playoff essentials, and Indiana checked every single box tonight. They showed they can handle business professionally without relying on individual heroics or lucky bounces. The clock management in the final minutes was textbook perfect. No hero shots, no early pull-ups, just smart basketball that bled seconds off the clock while hunting the best possible shots. Indiana attacked Chicago's weakest defenders and took either layups or feet-set three-pointers. That's how championship teams close games, boring on the stat sheet, devastating in effectiveness. Tonight proved that when the right players take the right shots from the right spots, basketball becomes beautiful. Hull's feet were set on her threes. Cunningham's catches were clean. Mitchell's pull-ups came within the natural flow, and Boston's hooks came after proper seals. That's not luck. That's preparation, practice, and execution at the professional level. If you're the Indiana Fever coaching staff, you're clipping every single highlight from tonight's performance. The third quarter run, the help defense rotations, the baseline out-of-bounds execution, all of it goes into the teaching bank. When Caitlin Clark returns, you add her gravitational pull to this systematic excellence and watch the ceiling lift even higher. For Chicago, this has to be rock bottom. Time to get healthy. Guard the three-point line like it's sacred. Build one reliable offensive action they can run repeatedly in hostile environments. And find 8 players who defend like their careers depend on it. Right now, they're failing at basketball basics, and that's not acceptable at the professional level. The final verdict on tonight's performance is crystal clear. Indiana didn't win because of lucky shooting or favorable officiating. They won because of habits, timing, preparation, and shooters who punished every lazy defensive rotation. Sophie and Lexie lit the fuse. Everyone else finished the job, and Chicago got absolutely smoked in front of their home fans. So here's the question that everyone needs to answer. Is Indiana building something genuinely special, or are they just bullying weak teams? Based on what we witnessed tonight, the systematic approach and professional execution suggest this team is ready to compete with anyone in this league. More performances like this, and the rest of the WNBA will have to start scouting the Fever as a legitimate threat rather than just another opponent on the schedule.